Some of the most beautiful films ever made are the ones that we can identify with. They speak to our souls and touch our hearts because the characters who are living in their truths reflect the truths in our own lives. No matter who we are, there is a movie out there that makes us face that type of vulnerability head on. For the LGBTQ community, an entire cinema movement has pushed the idea of narrative and has utilized film to tell the stories of a group that has not always had a platform. New queer cinema has produced some of the most prominent films that reflect the lives of the gay community, titles including Paris is Burning, Swoon, The Watermelon Woman, and My Own Private Idaho, which have led to the more recent queer films such as Carol, Tangerine, Brokeback Mountain, and Pariah. Two films that have made an influential impact on the new queer cinema movement and most recent queer cinema of the 21st century are Todd Haynes' 1991 film Poison and Barry Jenkins' 2016 film Moonlight. Both stories reflect on queer men coming to terms with their sexuality and the risks that come with their discovery within an opposing community, while also opening up the most beautiful and important dialogue that queer cinema has to offer. A part of a vital representational era of cinema, Todd Haynes' 1991 film Poison incorporates three unrelated stories in one film. One of the three stories, Homo, tells the story of John Broome, played by actor Scott Renderer, an inmate who recognizes newcomer Jack Bolton, played by actor James Lyons, from the time they spent at the Boys Reformatory of Baton when they were teenagers. Although both persons have had a past of sexual endeavors with the same sex, within the confines of the prison they are subjected to keep that part of their lives a secret. Poison has proven itself to be one of the definitive movies of the new queer cinema, with the same themes that we see in Barry Jenkins' 2016 movie, Moonlight. Moonlight is a coming-of-age story that follows the life of Chiron in three different stages of his life, making an extraordinary cultural impact on the Black community by being the first movie ever with an all-Black cast to win Best Picture at the 2017 Academy Awards. Moonlight reflects on the struggle that Black queer men have within their community. It comments on the effects that our community has on Black queers during their time of self-revelation and how the lack of support and acceptance can lead Black queers to shut out who they really are. One of the first scenes in Poison provides the first example as John and Jack watch one of their fellow inmates being forced into oral sex by another inmate. Neither John nor Jack interfere with the situation, knowing that if they show even a smidge of being homosexual, there will be repercussions. Another example happens during one of John's flashbacks of his time spent in the Boys Reformatory of Baton. He reflects on a traumatizing situation in which he witnesses Jack being spat on by a group of boys. While being spewed at with inflammatory remarks, Jack is forced to endure the abuse, while the absence of empathy makes room for the shamefulness of being and appearing gay. In Moonlight, Chiron is no stranger to being ridiculed for being seemingly gay. By not being able to fully grasp the concept of being gay, the bullying he takes from his younger peers causes him to shy away. During his teenage years, we see the bullying carry over due to his community equating being soft as being gay, which causes him anguish. This trauma causes him to isolate himself from his peers. By the third stage, Chiron is now referred to as Black, a high school dropout turned drug dealer who uses his outer, rugged appearance as a facade in order to fit in with those of his impoverished community. This facade only causes him to put aside his true self even more, maintaining the idea that he may never be able to be accepted within his community. One of the most important aspects of these characters' lives is the relationships they've created. Whether that relationship has been allowed to pan out or not in these films, they still hold great value in both of these stories, making the characters' world seem a little less lonely. The relationships both John and Jack have had in their time in the reformatory school was very different. Despite Jack having a negative relationship with the other boys, John actually found a group that accepted him and his sexuality. So much so that John ended up being a bride in a mock wedding with his partner. His partner ultimately cheats on him with another boy, but seeing the limitations that translate over to their time in prison essentially causes both of them to not be able to participate in that type of self-expression. Chiron's relationship with his childhood friend Kevin becomes one of the most important relationships he has in this movie. From childhood, Kevin has been one of the very few people to accept Chiron as he is, outwardly showing his care for him and that care and sincerity being ignited in their teen years when Chiron learns that Kevin is also queer when they share their first kiss. Although their community has made a negative impact on Kevin at one point in time, that and the years spent apart from each other does not take away the fact that both Chiron and Kevin both still have a genuine love for each other. Within the gay community, acceptance is a topic of conversation that will forever be relevant. These films have done an incredible job at showing how the presence and absence of acceptance affects those who need it most. In Poison, the limitations brought on by the prison have limited John and Jack to show any type of intimacy without also facing criticism. John seems to yearn not so much as acceptance from the other inmates, but yearns for Jack to allow John to accept him for who he is. This yearning exceeds more than any sexual desires, but to have a genuine relationship with a man from his past, who causes him to want to have any real human connection despite their unfortunate circumstances. During the first stage of Chiron's life, he ends up meeting and befriending Juan, a local drug dealer who is played by Mahershala Ali, who scored an Oscar for his portrayal. Due to an absent father and negligent mother, Juan becomes a father figure as well as a friend to Chiron, and evidently sees no wrong for who Chiron might be. In this clip, Chiron asks Juan and his girlfriend Teresa, played by Janelle Monáe, about being gay.
How do I know?
You just do. I think.
You'll know when you know.
Hey. You gotta know right now. All right? Not yet.
Both Juan and Teresa create a supportive foundation for young Chiron, whose significance to his story could never go unnoticed. The situations, events, and discoveries these characters have made have been some of the most painful, triggering, confusing, and freeing moments that can come with identifying as a gay man. The characters whose lives we followed have changed the way the LGBTQ community is represented, showing audiences that queer films are not too small, too broad, too taboo, and undeserving to be told. From the beginnings of queer cinema with Poison and the more recent of them with Moonlight, these have just been two films that are a part of the wide and immaculate variety of queer cinema that will continue to be the inspiration to break boundaries for the queer films yet to come.